Good morning, everyone. My name is Rod Russell. I will be the host this morning as we talk about the school mapping data. I just want to give another minute. People are joining in right now. So if you're just joining in, we're just going to give it a quick minute before we get started, make sure everybody gets in. As we wait for everyone to join in, I will remind everybody that we are answering questions via chat on this webinar. So if you do have any questions along the way, and certainly we welcome that, please add them into chat, and John and I will be monitoring that throughout the webinar. We appreciate that those questions coming in. Again, we're just waiting just another probably 30 seconds before we start. It looks like people are coming into the webinar right now. Well, thank you guys, all of you for joining us today. We're just giving this another 10 or 15 seconds before we get started. It looks like people are joining in. All right, and just wanted to let everyone know again, one more time, we will be answering questions via chat during the webinar, but it does look like everyone seems to be in now, so let's get started. Today, I am joined by Sylvia Ifft and John Marquet. Sylvia has served as the Florida DOE's Office of Safe Schools as their program director for the Alyssa's Law implementation and oversaw Florida's statewide school safety risk assessment program. As deputy director of the Florida DOE's Office of Emergency Management and as statewide critical infrastructure protection planner for the Department of Law Enforcement in Florida. John Marquet. John is a former public school educator from Connecticut. He's a K-12 technology veteran for the past 25 years, working within business development and governmental affairs. John is also on the board of directors for the Cumberland Education Foundation. And I, of course, am Rod Russell, your host for today. And as we start in, today we will be discussing the standardization of school mapping throughout Maryland. This topic is spoken about nationwide, and we've experienced multiple projects that, as the cornerstone, has concentrated on accessibility to public safety officials while experiencing an emergency within the campus. John, I would like to start with you. Can we spend a few moments before we take a deeper dive into mapping and share how Safety Blueprint is really the foundation of the safety platform designed by CENTEGIX?
Sure thing. Thanks so much, Rod. Appreciate it. So before we jump in, I think it's really important for everybody to understand who CENTEGIX is as an organization. So CENTEGIX is as best described as a hardware and software as a service organization that provides a safety platform, not only to K-12 school systems, but to other verticals, to higher education, government, municipalities. And we really focus on enhanced situational awareness for all stakeholders, from everyday situations like medical incidents, student altercations, student elopement, all the way up to the extreme incidents where you would need a building or even a district lockdown. Our cloud-based safety platform initiates the fastest response times for emergencies campus-wide. So what is our safety platform? Well, it's really comprised of four main components. The first being Crisis Alert, which is the largest wearable safety alert technology with over 600,000 badges in use today across 12,000 school sites in the US. Then there's our visitor management component. It allows school staff to monitor and locate who's on your campus, permitting only authorized visitors. And it also digitizes the reunification process. to help you quickly reunite staff, students, and personnel in emergency. But today, we're really going to be focusing on our blueprint component, our critical asset mapping component, and taking a look at how Safety Blueprint's digital campus and critical asset maps really help you streamline communication and response times. So our discussion points for today, Sylvia is going to be reviewing the grant requirements and the programmatic authority codified in House Bill 472, which is the school mapping data program in Maryland. Rod's going to be talking a little bit about the importance of the program from a response perspective. And in general, we're going to be reviewing how the school mapping data fits into the overall security ecosystem for both schools and first responders. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Sylvia.
Okay, good morning, and thank you, Rod and John, both for the introduction, and particularly thank you for inviting me to talk about school mapping today. I've been involved with school mapping for a number of years. I've worked both in facility and school safety and security assessment planning in Florida since the mid-2000s, as Rod had mentioned. And I also want to recognize that our team of subject matter experts here at CENTEGIX works with states and school districts all across the country. And just want to take a step back and mention that there has certainly been a much needed evolution in the past few years, creating continuity for school safety standards when it comes to not just countering acts of violence, but really improving the day-to-day response situations. And I want to applaud Maryland's leadership, along with other states that are really making these strides in ensuring a cohesive school safety structure. So the school mapping data program is just one example of this. And here you can see on the map on your screen that Maryland is part of a group of proactive states that really implemented a school mapping data program. So we're going to kind of run through some of the minimum requirements here and what you can expect down the road here. So the purpose of the Maryland School Mapping Data Program really is to authorize the use of safe school funds to support a grant program to make sure that standardized maps are accurate and made available to public safety officials. And that's to ensure that they're having the most efficient response to any emergency. So John mentioned House Bill 472. It passed in April of this year, 2024, and it establishes the program within the Maryland Center for School Safety. They're going to be responsible for the funding and the program implementation. It authorizes the center subcabinet to allow the funding for the program through the Safe Schools Grant Fund. John's going to talk about the funding a little bit later on and how we can help you navigate that process. Additionally, the legislation requires the Interagency Commission on School Construction to adopt some uniform facility mapping standards. We just went through this in Florida. I'm based in Tallahassee, Florida, and our Office of Educational Facilities at the state here implemented this program. So we've really gone through this evolution locally here where I'm here based in Florida. And then the next requirement, which is really, really crucial, is it requires local school systems to cooperate, not just with the commission, but local law enforcement as well. Part of that local cooperation, and really the purpose behind it, is to ensure that local school systems are consulting with their local law enforcement agencies on the development of the school mapping data. And also so that the local law enforcement is aware of the school security programs and how they're structured for each school. And also the last thing that I want to mention, and this is really, really important. I'm very familiar with this in Florida. This is pretty typical across the US when it comes to school safety. It authorizes the custodian of records to deny inspection for school mapping data, except in the performance of official duties by certain entities. So generally for public records, those public records custodians must permit inspection of any public record within a reasonable time frame. However, under this program, school mapping data custodians are required to deny inspection of any record disclosing data produced under this program, except for certain entities performing official duties. which are these that you see on your screen. So, of course, the Maryland Center for School Safety and the Commission, the Departments of State Police, Public Safety and Correctional Services, and State Emergency Management, as well as local law enforcement and local emergency management agencies. So the statutory language under this program establishes some minimum requirements for school maps developed under the grant program, with again those additional requirements to be established by the Interagency Commission on School Construction. So you'll see those coming down from the commission at some point. I'm going to go through each of these minimum requirements in a few minutes, one by one, and just kind of walk through why each of these are in the statutory language and the purpose behind this. But just to kind of wrap up this portion, really, we all have a shared goal of providing a safe learning environment for students and educators, of course. Purpose of this program in Maryland is, again, to have funds that will support that creation of a safe learning environment, create standardized and accurate maps of schools, and make sure that those maps are accessible to public safety officials so that they can have the best situational awareness of the layout of the school and the safety assets available so that they can respond as efficiently as possible to any emergency. And we're talking medical, trespassing, disturbance, fights, not just the worst case scenario, but including the worst case scenario, such as an active assailant. So before I go through each of the minimum requirements in a little bit more detail, I'm going to stop right there and see if there's any questions in the chat, and ask Rod if he has anything to add or if I've missed anything.
Sure. John, I'll take the question within chat if I can. The question is, I plan on spending a lot of time on my maps. The question revolves around ownership of maps, Sylvia. That does come up quite a bit throughout the nation, so I appreciate the question. So the question I'll pose to you, Sylvia, is who owns the maps after the district, has taken that time, as the chat question has said, and put their time, effort, and staff and money into it? Who will own the maps throughout the state? Is that a question in other states as well?
Yeah, so we see that come up quite a bit. Uh, really our philosophy here at CENTEGIX is that organizations should really be able to securely share their maps and data across public safety applications and platforms, right? So that's the whole purpose of the program. Once these maps are developed for schools, the schools really need to be able to retain full ownership of the data. We want to make sure that we're fully supporting local control and decision-making when it comes to the interest of public safety, so that this information is shared as broadly as necessary across the public safety ecosystem, really. And I'll talk a little bit more about why it's important to have that local control at the maps once that we build the program. So thank you for that question. Was there anything else?
I'm looking and it looks like we are good right now. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Well, let's dive in then. Why is it important to have maps that are always accurate, standardized, and digitized across public safety platforms? Why we have to codify this in statute? So really, school safety teams and 911 and responders, they really need to be working off of the same maps. It's vital that the solution provided can be updated in real time as changes occur simultaneously across the safety platform. So a few examples that I can think of. We were walking a school district last summer, and as we were walking through labeling and identifying the different safety components of the school, we come across a closet, right, that had a stack of cameras ready to be installed. Those cameras were due to go in the following week. Well, of course, we can't map the locations of those cameras at that time while we were there on campus. However, the safety teams are able to come back and just simply drop those onto the map because it's digitized, right? And so they can drop those cameras and that attribute data. Another one that I can think of back when I was working with the Florida Department of Education, Florida Department of Health contacted our office and they wanted us to help them distribute a large number of leak control kits that they had received as part of a federal initiative. It was the middle of the school year. So that's another example of why it's really vital that we're able to update those maps and provide that information that the responders really need to be aware of when you're looking at the school safety profile for the sites. So I'm going to walk through how we build this and what we do, and then what we can help support, and then what the school districts are, or schools and school districts are able to do. So, bump my keyboard there, excuse me. What we do is we start by working with our clients to collect scaled floor plans. We'll work with the schools to review those for accuracy and detail, and then we'll render those floor plans in Safety Blueprint. So this is what it looks like to start with. We use those architectural drawings. All the floors are scale, stacked, and geographically anchored to the base map over current aerial imagery to provide the best spatial and situational awareness for responders, not just for the floor plans inside the building, but the perimeter area outside of the building. So what we do is for Safety Blueprint, we use a map service that's the foundation layer and provides a global base map of both satellite imagery as well as street imagery, street data, to bring together contextual information to the base map, right? And then to further enhance the resolution and accuracy, so CENTEGIX is contracted with an aerial imagery company to provide another layer of high resolution imagery. It also provides, that company provides consistent updates occurring as often as 2 to 3 times a year, where we see a lot of new construction and development, particularly in urban areas. So this is why it's important that the aerial imagery is current, and that's also why it's a requirement under this program. Some examples are, neighboring properties may change, roads, are reconfigured, new buildings are built, either on your campus or next door, parking lots are expanded, portable buildings are brought in. So these map layer updates, when those layers are updated and when that occurs, that is synced automatically across Safety Blueprint and any of the safety platforms that are utilizing Safety Blueprint. And this is done automatically. There's no need to go back and do a refresh or an update or go back and remap the sites. The updates are simply just there. And then, just to kind of give you a visual of how we have those floor plans stacked. So this is the first floor, and then you're able to toggle to the second floor, the third floor, and then going to that next layer of making sure that all of the maps are default to a true north standard. So this is a standard with any modern geographic map. The default orientation is always going to be geographic north. You may hear this referenced as true north as it's referenced in the legislation. This is a minimum requirement under this program. Obviously you see this in some of your other wayfinding mapping programs for navigation. So if it's a standard, why is it important that it's included in this legislation, and why is it important just in general? So anyone who's ever worked in construction or facilities knows that architectural drawings are typically oriented along the long side of the building on a sheet of paper, so that the long dimension, it makes the plans easy to see and understand and interpret from a construction or facilities perspective, regardless of the actual geographic building orientation. However, when those architectural maps are shared with law enforcement, which is what we've been doing for years. We've done this in Florida since for 25 years now. But this really becomes problematic for public safety officials in the past. So They're trying to work off of architectural drawings provided by the school. When fire or law enforcement are responding to a crisis, especially during an expanding incident, they really need the ability to quickly coordinate entry, staging, triage, clearing the building, and communicate effectively through multiple comms channels. These response agencies operate off a cardinal direction, right? So it's vital that everyone's map is oriented in the same direction and they're not sitting in a command center trying to figure out which way is north, south, east, or west. The next important aspect here is the site details. So, oh, yep. Trying to get my slide caught up there, pardon. All right, so I'm going to talk about the site details, including the data and the safety information. So again, I've worked with schools in Florida for nearly 20 years now, and I understand the dynamics of school campuses and how they change. We just talked about that a little bit earlier. So in the same spirit of ensuring that a standard orientation for the map and regularly refreshing that, we believe that it's vital for school operations to reduce any friction and allowing you to ensure your maps are accurate as possible. So we authorize users with map management permission. So it's not every user, but it's going to be those that are at that higher level to be able to engage with those maps and make those updates on the fly as those occur automatically, and that those updates are automatically synced across any of the safety platforms that are used by Safety Blueprint. And some examples of these authorized users. So these are your risk managers, your school safety leadership. Those are the folks that are going to have this ability to engage with the map and make sure that it is accurate and provide those updates. And it's really easy to go through and make sure that your maps are updated. And then, of course, we're always going to fully support any local standard naming conventions, as well as the standards that come forth in the commission to come. So, want to take a little bit of a step back and talk about how Safety Blueprint is not really just for that worst case scenario. It is the purpose of it is to make sure that all of the departments have a tool that can be used for data-driven decision making. We feel it's important to support those departments that are the lifeline to the security systems and features. So this is your information technology department. This is your facilities department. This is your risk management. It's not just security that is a stakeholder in these maps. Safety Blueprint gives you the ability to pull reports and attribute data on your equipment, supporting infrastructure, drill down to those specific systems, really to provide justification to your decision makers regarding the current status of your system, or maybe demonstrate where additional resources are needed that would help bolster your security profile. Keeping this information up to date and accessible is vital to your risk management program. The more departments that are involved with using these maps regularly is going to ensure that you're successful during a response scenario during an incident. So on your screen here, you see an example of current iconography, as we say within Safety Blueprint. And each one of those items, you can provide additional attribute information, which you'll see in just a moment. But we are able to easily load specific icon types if you're needed. We've done that for many of our clients to match your local requirements. So this is just an example of some of the base icons that we have built out, and there are a number in there that came from some locals as well. And again, because our base maps are interactive, we provide the ability to provide some additional information. So you're able to reveal the layers that are important to you and eliminate anything that's irrelevant. If you need to look at specific assets and interact with particular layers as required by expanding incident, or maybe you have a reunification layer built in, or do that as part of the planning process, we have that capability. And then also, we want you to be able to drill down into specific asset details. This is so important for not only just response, but some risk management as well. And so we're going to give you an example here looking at this AED that's located in the gym. So if you click on that AED, it's going to reveal some information about that piece of equipment, and that's the panel on the right. All of that attribute information, so those fields that are located in that panel, are completely customizable by the district. So you can create your own fields here. You can add dates, maintenance dates. There's unstructured text fields that you can label to collect specific information, check boxes the same way. It also reveals the coordinates. We have that blacked out because this is an actual site. But it reveals the coordinates for each asset. And also, if that asset changes location, so maybe the clinic or the nurse's station moves rooms throughout the year, or that AED moves from one side of the hallway to the other side of the hallway, you can easily go through and change that location on the map. And again, it's updated across the platform. And then to take it a step further, so you're part of a safety team doing an annual safety inspection. You can look at this AED, take a picture of it. You notice that it's broken, and you want to make sure that facilities is aware of this so that we can get that asset replaced and back functioning as quickly as possible. Because these maps are dynamic, again, central office can pull this asset information up on the map, reference it for the heat ticket maybe that you put in to get this fix made. And then again, taking it to the worst case scenario or response situation, if you have an expanding response scenario where you have to access images maybe inside the classroom, or you want to examine the inside of a roof hatch before making entry, that information can be populated with photographs within the map. Same thing with your school ground labels. Say you designate a helicopter landing zone over the winter break as a result of maybe a walkthrough with your local response agencies. Or maybe the staff parking that you see here becomes student parking, and you just need to change those labels up. You're able to do that. Another example, perhaps you have a memorandum of understanding with a neighboring property to use their open space for an evacuation area, and you want to be able to provide more detailed labels for your neighboring property. You could just drop those into the map. And then again, just to reiterate, as soon as you add that information to the map, all of the electronic maps are updated across the safety ecosystem, including anyone in your public safety agencies that you're sharing those maps with. And then want to take just a moment to talk about the grid. So we've got a grid that is part of the requirements, as part of many of the requirements across the US. That grid is going to provide an added layer of orientation for teams in different locations, particularly, again, during those expanding incidents or even during the planning process. So you have some examples: emergency or special event planning. Maybe you're doing some reunification site planning, student orientation, field days, parent days, whatever. Or maybe inspection teams as they're going through doing their security sweeps, safety and sanitation inspections. You've got another point of reference on the map to be able to use. In an emergency response, your 911 operator is going to have that room and floor number of the emergency and can quickly help the ground team locate that closest entrance. Security operations teams at the districts or the real-time crime center, again, also will be able to have that grid as an additional layer of orientation. And then again, going back to the importance of having full control over your maps as your campuses evolve. So Safety Blueprint has some built-in tools for every aspect of the map to ensure that your map managers are able to make those updates in real time as they occur. And this includes your grid. So in this example, you see you have maybe an expansion of a parking lot that your local law enforcement partners want to include in the grid, or may also want to include maybe some neighboring properties in the grid. So we have a map measurement tool that you see here. Let me go back. We can measure, okay, working with local law enforcement, we actually want this grid to be this size and expand across this particular area. We have that edit capability again for those with the appropriate permissions to go in and make that change as necessary or as deemed important for the locals. And then the very last thing that I want to touch on is the print capability. So we've been talking about digitized maps a lot. However, the school mapping data program does include a requirement for printed maps as well. And so there's a few good examples of why this is important. Again, during an expanding incident, you may need to use a printed map, particularly if you have a number of staff present that need to work a situation like reunification, where you need to share those maps with different stations. Or you're performing a security assessment. I use these all the time back when I used to do security assessments. We're doing a walkthrough. Partner agencies like to have those paper maps so that they can make those handwritten notes as they're walking around. Or you're working on a security project with a vendor and you need to pull down and share an equipment map. Maybe you just want to drill down to your cameras and you want to just pull up a map of your cameras and print that out or share that as a PDF. You can do that. And then, we've got command staff that are simply more comfortable with maybe a large scale paper map for an expanding incident. Safety Blueprint makes it easy to pull these maps down, print the most current map at any time. Just like with any other modern digital map, you can zoom to the location that you need, filter exactly what you want to print on the map, so labels, grids, assets, and print exactly that map. And these maps are always going to print to that true north default. So in this example, maybe you are looking more specifically at your neighboring facilities and you want that printout. Or perhaps you need to zoom in for a more detailed view, which way the door swings. Are there connecting rooms? Are there closets within the rooms? Where are the storage rooms? Where are the offices located? So you're able to purpose that map for whatever you need. Very last thing I want to mention is I want to touch on integration. So high quality dynamic maps, of course, are critical to almost every public safety application. We know this. Public safety officials in Security Operations Center, real-time crime centers, and public safety answering points have been very clear that they need all the mapping data integrated into a single location, right? They can't afford the time required to switch back and forth between maps. So we really feel that any organization should be able to easily and securely bidirectionally share their maps and mapping data across public safety applications and mapping platforms, really without being concerned with the vendors locking it into a specific set of requirements or any additional expense. And then the last couple of things of point for Safety Blueprint. There's no special software required to access this tool. It's a secure web-based platform. Account administrators can securely share emergency response maps digitally with local public safety agencies through roles and permissions. Or, as we mentioned, those maps can be printed or downloaded into a digital file. Digital print maps and data files can be uploaded to school or public safety platforms. This is really a important component as we were building out Safety Blueprint. And then last, CENTEGIX, we're capable of a number of direct IP and API integrations with select platforms. We've got a number of partners that we work with to ensure that this is possible. And we also will work with our schools to make sure that we have those integrations in place that they need. And so I've done a lot of talking, so I'm going to stop. I'm going to turn it back over to Rod to see if there's any questions in the chat or if you've got any additional comments for us. So Rod?
Yeah, thank you, Sylvia. I've been monitoring, and actually you've done a fine job to answer some of the questions. I'm going to combine some of them. Certainly you've covered, are the maps used for safety and security only? Nationwide, we're seeing a lot of maintenance teams, even down to the HVAC maintenance, keeping track and staying in line with that. So we appreciate that question. I had another one, multiple departments, how can they leverage the tech? So thank you again, Sylvia, for letting us know that certainly that it will be available to not only safety and security, but the entire campus as needed. The last question, is this technology for schools only?
Yeah, no. So we are, and John had mentioned this earlier, and he may want to talk a little bit more about it when he gets into his portion of the program here, but really it is for any organization, right? So we work with a number of different verticals or types. It's not just schools, we're in government facilities, we're in healthcare facilities. It really is anybody that is interested in creating these types of security maps, and take those deeper dives into some maintenance and some data sharing with local public safety. We can create maps for those organizations.
I think we're caught up on chat. Thank you, Sylvia.
Okay, and I think John was going to go through just a couple of things about how our our safety blueprint is foundation for our safety platform. So I'm going to turn it over to John to let him wrap us up.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sylvia. Thanks, Rod. So again, like Sylvia was saying, looking at our safety platform, it's really safety blueprint that's the foundational layer for our platform that fully supports the other components: crisis alert, visitor management, reunification, and provides that location accuracy. But let's take a closer look at our enhanced visitor management system. It really lets you easily check in and authenticate and locate visitors in real time, giving you confidence and the peace of mind that only permitted verified visitors are on your campus at all times. So rather than running and hunting room to room and calling staff on intercoms, our visitor management system, combined with our innovative real-time location mapping technology, pinpoints the specific location of every guest. And it also has zone-based authorization that's available for visitor location assignment. So what this allows you to do is it allows you to locate all types of visitors, volunteers, contractors, parents, visiting guests, and community members, all in real time, visible through our live property and building maps. But one of the things that's really the most powerful piece of this visitor management, in my opinion, is the fact that it allows you to save the data. So when you have visitors coming into your building and let's say weeks later, you have a question or there's an issue and you need to go back, you have the data to go back and look to see where folks were in your building and what parts of your building. Now let's take a closer look at how Safety Blueprint really supports Crisis Alert. Crisis Alert is our wearable, always accessible badge with a single button that equips all school staff members with an immediate and really discreet and easy way to signal for help from anywhere on campus. It's unique in its ability to deliver precise alert location, immediate audio and visual incident notifications and campus-wide incidents, full campus coverage, and 100% user adoption. So every staff member in your building actually has the wearable badge. The other thing is it's built on a private network, so it doesn't leave you relying on Wi-Fi or cellular service. And here's where Safety Blueprint really supports Crisis Alert. Using Blueprint, alerts are displayed on a map showing who needs help and where they're located using X, Y, and Z coordinates. So the map and the location information goes directly to first responders and local administrators, notifying them of who needs help and where they are located, and simultaneously notifies 911 with precise location details. Now that piece is configurable and optional. You don't have to have that integration to 911, but it is an option. And then taking a look at Safety Blueprint itself. So after being able to rapidly identify a crisis event, it's the map of your schools that provides the foundation for locating other important things well beyond immediate crisis, such as safety, assets, and even visitors. Blueprint is the dynamic digital map of your schools that powers the location information from crisis alert and asset mapping, right? So here's the big value point. Once your campus maps are digitally loaded into our system, administrators can easily update and edit the layout of the map anytime without having to re-engage with an architect for every change to the floor plan, whether it's a large change or a minor change. Staff, administrators, and other key personnel can access and update a map with the current and precise location mapping of every building and every asset. So lastly, what I want to do is pivot and talk a little bit more about the school mapping data program, but specifically refer to the Maryland Center for School Safety and the School Safety Grant. So with the passing of Bill 472, it created the School Mapping Data Program in the Maryland Center for School Safety, which is NCSS. And its focus is really to provide funds to local schools systems to produce school mapping data, such as public schools, for the public schools of Maryland, including the charter schools. The Safe Schools Fund is administered by the School Safety Subcabinet, which must establish procedures for local school systems and law enforcement agencies to apply for the grants from the fund. So the purpose of the School Safety Fund is to provide grants to local school systems and enhance school safety, and it may only be used for those purposes. Now, with the passing of Bill 472, the Safe Schools Fund has always been there for safety projects, but the passing of 472 has expanded the allowable projects to include mapping projects moving forward. So how can we help? Where does CENTEGIX kind of step in to help school districts in Maryland? So first, we really seek to ensure that school staff and students receive the highest possible quality education while remaining safe inside the school buildings where education is being delivered. Our government affairs and support teams monitor and analyze federal and state and local grant opportunities and requirements, such as the Maryland School Mapping Data Program. And we do this on an ongoing basis as things change to assist schools and school districts in navigating the grant application process. So our goal really here is to help school systems accomplish a few things. Number one, it's to understand and keep interested schools and districts informed of the specific requirements of various funding opportunities. Number two, it's really to ensure the language, if you're actually going to be applying, that the language in your application appropriately aligns to the NCSS grant guidance. And then lastly, just to keep everyone aware of when deadlines for these applications come up. So specifically looking at the Safe Schools Fund grant, if you're interested in applying for that grant this year, there's approximately $25,000 available for each LEA in Maryland or district in Maryland for whether it's a mapping project that you want to apply for or any other safety project that's allowable through that grant. And this year, the application deadline is September 30th. So the last thing that I would share on this is that if you're interested in doing a mapping project and you have interest in partnering with CENTEGIX, we can help and assist you in your grant application by providing you language that will align to the grant requirements. That's one of the ways that we can help. So I think that brings us really to the end of our time for our webinar. What I'd like to do is simply thank everyone that's joined us today. We really appreciate your time and taking out of your busy schedule. Again, my name's John Marquet. My contact information is on the screen. And what we've also done is we created a QR code. So if you scan that code, it's going to take you to the specific Maryland CENTEGIX page, which has specific state-specific information for you regarding this legislation and about our solutions. So once again, I want to thank you for your time and joining us today. And again, have a great day and feel free to reach out if you have questions or you want to have a conversation.
Great. Thank you, John and Sylvia. Stay safe.
Thank you.